Hello, and welcome to Engineering Ethics at NJIT. My name is Daniel Estrada, and I'll be your instructor this semester. So if you just clicked on this video for the first time, it's probably the first exposure you have to the course. You just loaded up Moodle, and this is the first thing on the Moodle page. And that's excellent, that's perfect. This video is supposed to introduce you to what's going on in the course, what the expectations are, and so on. It's kind of a mini syllabus. In fact, I'm going to go over all of the things that are in the syllabus and just give the sort of highlights so you know what's going on. Now, the full syllabus is on Moodle. You can download the document, the PDF, and go through all the details at your own pace. But this video is supposed to be sort of a gentle introduction to what's happening in the video. So my plan is to introduce myself, to say a little bit about what the course is and isn't, and then to go over what's in the syllabus. So talk to you about what's going on in the lessons, the expectations for your weekly assignments for each lesson, and then the grading policy, the late policy, plagiarism policy, that kind of thing. So this will be a complete overview of the syllabus. Hopefully it's helpful. But before, I guess I'm going to start here. Hi, I'm Dan, or Daniel, or Dr. Estrada if you like. I have a PhD in philosophy, which I earned in 2014 from the University of Illinois. I also have a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of California, Riverside in 2003. And I've been teaching here at New Jersey Institute of Technology since 2014. I was an adjunct instructor in 2014. In 2015, I got hired as a full-time instructor, and I've been here for a few years now. My specialization is in philosophy of mind and philosophy of technology, and I do research in artificial intelligence and agency, autonomy. I teach two other courses related to artificial intelligence here at NJIT. In fact, we're going to do a whole unit on artificial intelligence in this class. The final unit of the course is 3 weeks on AI and ethics. But I also teach a STS 351, which is Minds and Machines, which is a philosophy of mind course. We go over how the mind works and how digital minds work. And then I also teach senior seminar, HSS 405, Artificial Intelligence and Autonomy. There we don't do the philosophy of mind stuff so much. We do free will and agency and theories of autonomy and self-organization. Both are really interesting classes, and a lot of the themes from these classes will sort of appear in this class. So if you like this class, you might think about taking those other classes as well. Yeah, my interests are in philosophy of mind and philosophy of technology, but this class is an ethics class. Ethics isn't really my main interest, but it's a lot of fun teaching this class. Ethics is usually thought about as a disasters class, disasters 101. We go over major engineering disasters, bridges collapsing, space shuttles exploding, and we talk about what went wrong, how to prevent it from happening in the future, how to make sure it doesn't happen, and so on. Actually, let's go on to what this course is and isn't. Used about what this course is going to involve. Students come into the course mostly expecting that they'll get an easy A, and I think they also expect a lot of finger wagging from me, that I'm going to sort of tell you, to not to cheat or steal or lie, and to make sure you keep up with regulations and so on, and sort of tell you to do a bunch of things that you already know to do. So telling you things that you already know wouldn't be very helpful, and that's not what this course is really about. So let me just, before I say what this course is, let me say that this course is not, it's not designed to tell you the difference between right and wrong. I assume you already know the difference between right and wrong. I assume you learned it somewhere around kindergarten or first grade. And if you didn't, there's not a whole lot that I can do now to tell you about the difference between right and wrong. Hopefully this is something that you've been working on for a long time. Hopefully you're also committed to this difference, that you think that it's important that you do right things and not do wrong things. Like, for instance, I hope you already understand that killing people unnecessarily is a bad thing that you shouldn't do. You should avoid as much as you can. You don't need me to tell you that killing people unnecessarily is wrong. You already know that, right? You're an adult. You have a developed sense of right and wrong. So it's not my job to give you that developed sense of right and wrong. It's also not my job to teach you what my opinions are. or the opinions of NJIT or the state of New Jersey or the state of the United States. I'm not just, and the goal of this course is not to indoctrinate you in any particular ethical view or principle or outlook, especially not my views, but really I'm not pitching for any institutional views either. I'm also in particular not telling you what your employer thinks is right and wrong, or your eventual employers. Every company that you work for will have its own policy on ethics, have its own guidelines on what's appropriate and inappropriate behavior. Some of these guidelines are very general and very obvious and are encoded into laws, and we can talk about some of those laws. Some of those guidelines from your employer might be very specific to your employer, and your employer will tell you all those things you need to know. They'll inform you about all the regulations, state and federal, that govern your particular career. It's not my job to tell you those policies. And just to be clear on this, I'm a state employee. I work for the state of New Jersey. As a state employee, I have to take every year an ethics test. They make me go through a PowerPoint presentation. That's actually a little more pleasant than this one. But they make you sit through a PowerPoint presentation and then answer a bunch of questions at the end of the PowerPoint to make sure that you understood what was going on. And the goal of those ethics orientation sessions is to inform you about the ethics policies of the state, right? And as a state employee, it's a requirement that I'm exposed to these policies and that I know them and so on. So a lot of you maybe have taken tests like this before or have taken orientation sessions like this before. Freshman year of NJIT has some of these same kind of orientation sessions. But this class is not just an orientation session. I'm not just going... There will be a lot of PowerPoint slides, I admit. But I'm not just going to make you sit through a slideshow and then answer questions about the slides. The goal of this course is not just to make sure you know some official policy. Instead, the goal of the course is to really give you the time and space to think, and to think critically about ethics and engineering and how these two intersect, and how they both intersect with your own values. Although I do think that you have a good sense of right and wrong. Maybe you've never thought very hard. Maybe you've never had the time and inclination to think very hard about your own views, about maybe some sensitive or controversial subjects, something like whistleblowing. Some of you have maybe never thought about whether you could whistleblow, when it would be appropriate to whistleblow, whether you would have the courage to do it in a difficult situation. On the other hand, some of you maybe are employees currently or have been employees in situations where maybe you did think about whistleblowing, and maybe you did realize that it was potentially something that you might need to do, and maybe you've actually done it before. If you've had to think about these situations before, then this is a chance to share your thoughts and to reflect on the decisions that you made. And as I think is the case for most of you, if you've never had a chance to think about these things before, then here's your chance to do it. In this class, you're going to have a chance to think about these controversial, sensitive, and sometimes life-changing issues, life-saving issues, right? It can be the difference between life and death, some of these decisions that engineers are responsible for. And you get a chance in this course to think about these potentially life or death decisions in a context where almost nothing is on the line, right? If you make a wrong decision, if you have an opinion that isn't very well thought out and is sort of a bad opinion, then this is the place to make those claims and then think them through and then see the impact, to see what your peers say and think about your thoughts, and sort of have it all go through the ringer a couple of times so you can see how it works in the context of a bunch of different cases that we'll be going over. Right? And again, the important thing here is that nothing is on the line. When you are actually in a career professional situation and lives are actually on the line and maybe you have to make a really important decision, that's not the time to start thinking about what ethics are and what your values are and how you ought to be making that decision. You should be thinking about those things way before you actually have to make the decision, so that when that decision comes around, you're in a position to make an informed and intelligent decision. Right? So the goal of this class is to lay the frameworks for you to make more sophisticated, deeper, more nuanced and sensitive decisions, so you understand what's at stake and how what influence you have over the course of events. And you get to do this in this class with all your fellow students at NJIT, which is kind of an amazing opportunity. When have you had the chance to sit around with a bunch of different people? Some of them are strangers, some of them might be friends, but with a bunch of different people to talk about what you think and believe and what matters to you. This is the kind of thing that almost never happens in public life, where you're gathered around with strangers talking about your thoughts and feelings and what matters to you, where your values lie. Some people find these kinds of communities where this stuff happens regularly, but most of us don't. And this is your chance to do this. So I'm going to come back on screen for a second. And hello again. I'm back on screen to emphasize this point, that you're taking a philosophy class. You're spending 15 weeks of your life thinking about what matters to you in the most abstract and inconsequential ways that you can. This is a huge privilege. As a professional philosopher, I recognize that it's an extraordinary privilege to be able to think abstractly and sort of idly, navel-gazing, at these really big and really deep and foundational questions. These deep questions, they matter a lot, and we have typically very little time to think about them. Usually we're thinking about all the consequences that arise from having these deep ethical commitments, right, from the things that matter to you. Mostly you're just living with the life that results from it. But in this philosophy class, we get 15 weeks with each other to think about, to sort of step back and contemplate more abstractly and try to think critically, try to reflect on what we're doing and why we're doing it and what matters to us as we're doing it, and what matters to us about how we're doing it with each other. Right, I mean, not everyone in class is an engineer. I know there's a lot of architects who take this class. I know there's a lot of non-engineering students who take this class also. And we're not just going to be talking about engineering. We're going to be talking about why we do what we do and how best to do it. And we get to do this with a classroom full of other students who are also have ambitions to be professionals and to make an impact on that professional environment. I mean, you are the next generation of professionals in this country, and a lot of these ethical issues haven't been worked out by the current generation of professionals, but also haven't been worked out by you. I mean, your students. This is exactly the time that you have for thinking through these issues. There's a time and place for everything, and it's called college. And now you get the luxury of doing philosophy, right? You're actually required now for this semester to spend some time thinking about shit, and it's really special. And I want you to take advantage of it, because these opportunities won't come along very often. For some of you, this will be the only time in your life that you spend some moments contemplating philosophical issues. For some of you, this will continue a lifelong passion for philosophy, and hopefully I can make a mark on you here also. But for most of you, this is the only time you'll think about these things in an abstract way. And it's much better that you think about these things here, where the only thing that rests on it is your grade, which isn't all that much. So please take the opportunity seriously. Please take advantage of our time together here. That's all I'll say from the inspirational pulpit. Let's go back to the course. Let's talk about the actual course, the sort of nuts and bolts of the course. First thing to say is up in the corner there is the textbook, Ethics in Engineering. This is Martin Schinziger. It's the 4th edition. It's necessary that you pick up the 4th edition of the text. The previous editions will have different page numbers and will have different, slightly different case studies. So we have a couple of quizzes that come directly from this edition of the textbook. So it's very important you get the 4th edition. I will say that the first required assignment with the text, there are some readings in lesson 1, but you're not required to have this text until the quiz for lesson 2. The quiz for lesson 2 is due Friday of week 2. So you have a little bit of time to get this text. It should be available at the bookstore and on Amazon and online. So I don't think you'll have a problem finding the text. It's not that expensive. Get this text. Every other reading will be made available on Moodle. So this is the only text that you're going to have to buy. All right, for the lesson structure, so there's 15 weeks in the course. There's 15 lessons in this class. Each lesson has a different assignment. And each lesson is mostly the same. There's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, every lesson is identical. So you're doing the same thing every week for 15 weeks straight. This means that you don't really have to think too much about the schedule, because after the first few weeks, you'll get into the habit of doing this on a weekly basis. And that sort of frees you up to think about the content of the course. And that's what I really want you to do, is to think about the material. So every lesson for the 15 weeks, there's basically 3 parts. There's a bunch of reading, and I give a lot of reading. Readings and videos, articles, images, comics. I give a lot of material. Some of that material is labeled required reading, and some of that material is optional reading. But you're encouraged to go through as much of the material as you can. After you go through the material, there's a quiz. The quiz is a reading quiz, and it only covers the material marked as required reading. So the only difference between required reading and optional reading is that the required reading appears on the quiz. So you have to go through the required reading in order to answer the quiz. The optional reading doesn't appear on the quiz. But you can use any of this material, both required and optional. You can use any material in order to do the other part of the assignment, which is the discussion forum. So in the discussion forum, you're required every week to write a post and to give a few replies on other students' posts. So the quiz, the post, and replies, this is your 3 assignments every week for 15 lessons. On Friday at midnight, your post is due. Your post has to be a minimum of 400 words. Or if you don't want to write up an essay, you can also do a little video, video recording, a YouTube video, and then post that. Video essays will be accepted for posting credit. And every Friday at midnight, you have to post your weekly post, either an essay or a video. Also, on Friday at midnight, you have to post your quiz. The quiz closes at 11:59 p.m. on Friday, so you need to have your quiz done before then. Then after the quiz is posted, on the following Tuesday, you have 2 replies due. Your replies are 150-word replies, so like paragraph-length replies, and you should be responding to other students' posts, right? So read another student's posts, give a paragraph reply, commenting on some issues that they bring up. Try to start some discussion. Try to start some back and forth. Maybe get some other people involved in a discussion. That's due at on Tuesday at midnight. So Tuesday going into Wednesday, it's due at Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. So posts and quizzes are due on Friday. Replies are due on the following Tuesday. And you do this every week for 15 weeks. Now there's a couple of exceptions. There's the first exception is on week 1. In week 1, there is no quiz. So a lot of people don't have the book yet. A lot of people are still adding the course. So there's no quiz for this week. There is still a post due on Friday of the first week. And instead of a quiz, I'm asking you to post in the introductions thread. So if you open up the discussion forum, lesson 1, and go into the discussion forum, there's a thread called introductions. If you go in that thread, everyone's introducing themselves. Put your introduction in there, sort of say who you are and so on. I also want you to change your avatar on Moodle to something other than the default. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be a picture of you. It can be a picture of anything. But change it to something other than the default. Make sure it's school appropriate. But change your avatar something, and your avatar and your introduction will count for your quiz credit for week 1. There's no other quiz for lesson 1. You still have to do a post, and then your introduction and avatar count as your quiz. The next exception doesn't come until week 10 and 11, so we have like 10 straight weeks of exactly the normal lesson routine. But then lessons 10 and 11 are a little bit different because those are we're doing a research project. I'll give you more information on the lesson itself about how this research project is going to go. But what you need to know now is that for lessons 10 and 11, you are going to be asked to pick your own historical case study, and then you're going to be asked to do library research, scholarly research, to investigate your case and give an analysis of the case. You're doing a single case, but I'm extending the project over weeks 10 and 11. So on lesson 10, I want you to give sort of an explanation of what happens in the case, sort of report on what the case is about. And then lesson 11, I want you to do an ethical analysis of the case, the same case that you gave a sort of report on. I want you to give an ethical analysis of. And so that's lesson 10 and 11. On those lessons, your research project will have a higher word count than a normal post, but there's no quizzes for these weeks. Instead of a quiz for these weeks, because there's no common reading that everyone's doing, so there's no quiz. Instead of a quiz, I'm asking you to do an annotated bibliography with your scholarly sources. So you have to do real library research, and you have to put together an annotated bibliography of the sources that you came up with for your research project. That's in lessons 10 and 11. The grading is a little bit different for those lessons also, but that's the one exception. So lessons 1 through 9 are all going to be the same: post, quiz, and replies. Lessons 10 and 11, you still do replies, but no quiz. You do this annotated bibliography instead. The other exception is in lesson 15, the final lesson of the course. I'm asking you to do a what did you learn post. That what did you learn post is worth 100 points, is worth as much as a normal lesson. But all the other parts of a normal lesson aren't there, so there's no quiz, there's no readings. It's just sort of a reflection on the semester. There's no quiz. You don't have to do replies. It's just that what did you learn post. It is worth 100 points. A lot of students by that point are checked out and don't do this final assignment and don't get that 100 points, and sometimes it ends up with a B instead of an A. So I'm warning you now. I'll warn you one more time, but these are your warnings that do lesson 15. All right, so let me just go in a little bit more detail about the assignments themselves. So remember, you have, for a normal lesson, you have a quiz, you have a post, and you have replies. So your quiz, again, it only covers the required readings. These quizzes are not meant to be difficult. There's no trick questions or deep analysis. They're mostly multiple choice questions. Usually there's 5 multiple choice questions on a quiz. The exceptions to that are quiz 5 and 7. Those quizzes don't have multiple choice questions. They have instead, they present you with a new case that we haven't talked about before, and then they ask you to give an analysis of the case. So that requires a little bit of writing. It takes a little bit more time. But none of these should be very hard, and it's not meant to test your knowledge of the readings. What it's designed to do instead is just make sure that you've opened the readings and looked through them. You can't answer these questions unless you've sort of glanced through the readings and you have some idea of what's going on in them. So I don't want to make this difficult for you. You can Control F to find most of the answers here, but the point of the quiz is just to encourage you to have actually opened up these documents and looked through them a little bit. So hopefully that helps you get started on your posts and so on. All right, your quizzes are due, as I said, every Friday at midnight, and I'm a stickler about this. No late quizzes are accepted, so if you don't turn your quiz by Friday at midnight, you don't get to take that quiz. Quizzes are worth 100 points. Each lesson is worth 100 points, and quizzes are worth 20 points of the lesson. So the rest of the points are, the other 80 points are in discussion. So 20 points isn't a whole lot. It's a fifth of your weekly grade. But this is a very common way that students lose points in this class is by failing to take their quiz, and not getting their quiz in on time. So staying on top of that schedule is really important. The other 80 points, like I said, come from the discussion forum, and there's 2 parts to the discussion forum. There's your post, and there's your replies. You have to do both every week. Your post is due on Friday at midnight, same time as your quiz. It should be around a 450-word essay. 450 words is a little over a page. And it's just an essay that can be on any material from the course. So it can be on the required readings, it can be on the optional readings, it can be on the lesson theme itself. And maybe there's other sources, other readings or articles that you know about books or whatever, other case studies that you think reflect well or give insight into the lesson themes. And so if you bring in other material, that's also great. Anything to show me that you've been working on the lesson, that you've spent time on it, that you're not just rushing to write an essay to meet the deadline, but that you've actually put some thought and consideration into your work. Right? Anything along those lines is going to get you good grades. I'll go over the grading policy later, but your weekly post is out of 50 points. So the way this works is on Moodle, underneath your posts and replies, there's a thing that says ratings, or sum of ratings, and that's where I give you your grade. So your post is out of 50 points, so you'll see like a 45 out of 50 or whatever. 45 out of 50 is an A, it's 90%. And if you see 45, you got an A on your post. If you see 35, you got a B on your post, that kind of thing. Or a 40, you got a B on your post. 35, you got maybe a C. All right, so that's your post, 450-word essay. It can be on any of the themes. I should also say this isn't a writing class. The goal of this class is not to write the perfect essay. I know a lot of students who are taking this class aren't very strong writers or aren't very comfortable writing. I know a lot of students are also not native English speakers and find it difficult to write an essay in English. That's okay. Don't stress out about the writing part of this. It's important to practice your writing, and if you want to, there's the Writing Center, which has excellent resources for helping you craft an essay. But the goal of this class is not to write the perfect essay. The goal of this class is to think about ethics, to think about values in engineering, and you should be using your essay in order to help you think out these issues. So if your writing isn't perfect, that's okay. I mean, try as best you can to make a good essay, but if your writing isn't perfect, that's okay. What matters is that it's clear to me that you're taking the material seriously and you're thinking through it carefully and critically. So as long as that comes through in your essay, that's fine. So that's your post. You also have 2 replies due every week. Those replies are due on the lesson from the previous Friday. So if lesson 5 is due on Friday, then the following Tuesday, the following week lesson 6 is due, but that Tuesday the replies for lesson 5 are due. Those are due on Tuesday at midnight, 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday night, and those are a paragraph length replies. A paragraph is about 150 words. I'm not too much of a stickler on the word count, although word count is some indication of effort. It's not a complete indication of effort, but low word count is definitely an indication of low effort. So try to keep your word count above the limits. And try to use your replies to sincerely engage your peers. Don't just try to meet the requirement. Try to actually talk about some stuff. Work through some issues, try to get a dialogue going. You are allowed to reply to replies. If someone replies in your thread, you can reply to them and get credit for that reply. But remember, the point of this assignment is to engage other students, and so that you've seen a couple of other views, right? You're not just thinking about your own views, you're thinking about the views of other people. So make sure you're taking that seriously. If you're always replying to students who reply to you, and it seems like you're only engaging your own ideas, right? This might make your grades go down. And then these replies are due at Tuesday at midnight. Your posts are 50 points a lesson. Your replies, you have 2 replies every lesson. They're 15 points each. So that's 30 points per lesson on replies. So 50 points for your post and 30 points for your replies is 80 points for a lesson. Plus 20 points for the quiz is 100 points total for each lesson. Now there's 15 lessons. That's 100. It's 1,500 points. But lessons 10 and 11 are slightly more points. The posts for lesson 10 and 11 are worth 100 points each. So they're twice as much as a normal post. The requirements are also more stringent. So that's reflected in the grades for lesson 10 and 11. Those lessons are worth 150 points each instead of just 100 points each. So that means that the total course is at 1,600 points. There's no additional assignments. There's no additional assignments apart from the post replies and quizzes and the research project in weeks 10 and 11. There's no midterm or final. Right, so this is all your points. And then the grading scale, it's a little bit adjusted from a straight scale. The big thing I wanted to draw your attention to is the minimum passing grade is a D. Is at 50% at 800 points out of 1,600. So it's possible to pass this class minimally with a 50%. That said, students do fail the class. It's more common, though, for students to be in the B and C range and be sort of upset because they expected an A. So let me say a little bit about my grading policy. Actually, before I go on, let me say that you can use this grading scale, and this is in the syllabus. You can use this grading scale to calculate your final grade. Moodle does a course total in the grade calculation, and let me say very clearly that the Moodle calculation is not correct. It does things like includes your extra credit scores in the grade calculation, and that makes it just makes it wrong. So you can figure out what your actual grade is by adding up all your points and then comparing it to this grade scale. This grade scale on this video or in the syllabus. So the grade that comes up on Moodle automatically, the point totals are correct, but the total grade calculation is not correct. And this confuses a lot of students. Sometimes students think they're doing better than they actually are. So you calculate your actual grade by adding up all your points and then comparing it to this grade scale. So if you know you're going to be over 1,440 points, then you know you got an A. That kind of thing. Right? Don't look for 90% on the Moodle grade sheet. You need to be using this grade scale. Okay. Now let me say just a couple of things about my grading policy. So this course is a requirement for everyone. It's a breadth requirement. Like I said, most students aren't strong writers and aren't looking to become stronger writers. So for these reasons, I don't think this class should be too hard to pass. I think it should be fairly easy to pass. I think the material should be fairly easy. And it is. Just honestly, the class is pretty easy, especially compared to some of you engineers taking physics and advanced mathematics. They can be very difficult. There's not going to be anything like that in this class. You're not going to have to memorize equations or dates or anything like that. From a difficulty standpoint, I think the class is fairly easy. But from a time standpoint and from an effort standpoint, you're going to be doing a lot of writing in this class. There's a lot of reading to go over also. These lecture videos can be kind of long. It's not hard to sit there and watch this lecture video. And by the way, you can put it at 2 times speed or 4 times speed if you have the extension. But watching these videos aren't difficult, but thinking about them carefully and writing a post that reflects some careful critical consideration, right? That takes actual effort. It takes time and thought. And it's not hard to do that, but not everyone's willing to do that. And I think to earn an A in this class, you have to show that you're willing to put in the time and effort to do well in this class. Not just that you're willing to meet the minimum requirements, sort of a compliance strategy, but that you really want to get the most out of the course, right? That you want to be to perform at as best you can. So, on my view, a B grade is a good grade. And anyone who meets the requirements in the grade should get a C or a B at minimum. But in order to earn an A in class, you have to actually do excellent work. Your work has to demonstrate the time and consideration you put into it. So in order to earn an A, you have to do more than just meet the minimum requirements. You have to show that you spent time with the material, that you've actually read it and thought about what's going on. Right? Not just that you looked at the quotes that I put in the slideshow, but that you actually read the material. Maybe that you didn't just read this, but that you looked at other works by the author, or that you looked deeper into the issue, you did some independent research, right? If you start pulling up material from other sources that you found as you've gone through the material more closely, right? That shows that you've put in additional effort, right? That shows that you've put in some time to think about the course independent of just what I've sort of spoon-fed you in these videos. Contemplation, one sign of contemplation is something other than agreement. So this is especially important in the replies. It's very common for students in replies to just say, yeah, I agree with you, and then say some reasons why they agree, and that's it. But agreement is pretty easy. And in fact, most students are just looking for someone they agree with because that's the easiest way to do a reply. I think it takes more work to give a thoughtful criticism. A criticism, not an insult, and not a fight, but to give a differing point of view and then to think critically about how these viewpoints differ, why they differ, what might resolve the difference, if anything, this kind of stuff. Right? So anything along these lines is going to make me happy as a grader. Right, so I'm looking for thoughtful consideration of the material, but not just the material itself, but also how the material intersects with the theme for the lesson, how the materials interact with each other. Right, so maybe one reading from the required readings gives some insight into one of the optional readings also. Right, if you can draw that connection in your post, right, that shows some additional work. Right, even better than drawing connections between articles in a single lesson is drawing connections across lessons, right? If something that we're doing in lesson 7 reminds you of something that we did in lesson 4, and you draw that out in your post, that's the kind of thing that makes me really happy as an instructor, and it will reflect well on your grades, right? And if you are sort of picking up on fundamental course themes that keep on coming up again and again in individual lessons, right? Drawing attention to these broader themes and showing that you sort of get it at a larger, so you get the big picture. You get the big picture and you get how it applies to the details, and you can sort of wrap it all up in a nice package. Right? That's what I want to see in these posts. I'm also looking for sincere engagement with the discussion. Right? So not just that you say what you want to say, but that you also listen to what others are saying and that you respond sincerely and constructively. Right? That you actually listen to what they're saying, that you're not just looking for something for you to say, but that you're actually trying to engage the material, trying to start a discussion. Right, trying to, recognizing that we're all here and we're all thinking about this together, and so actually taking advantage of that opportunity. Right, so anything that I see that sort of looks like this, will make me happy. So that's my idea for setting the grading policy, and here's the actual grading policy. So the way that the grading works, if you've listen through the video to this point, here's the big secret for the grading policy, is that the grading policy is designed to drive students towards a B grade. That if you do the minimal requirements, if you put in the minimal amount of effort that's required, then you're going to get a B. And that in order to get an A in this class, you have to go above and beyond those minimum requirements. So what do I mean by B? I mean that your post will earn 40 out of 50 points. So earlier I said that your post should be about 450 words. 450 word posts will earn about 40 or 45 points, between 40 and 45 points. If you want to earn 50 points, you're going to have to do more than that minimal post requirement. 50-point posts are over 500 words. They engage with more than one of the sources. They do independent research. They're synthesizing across sources and across lessons, right? That's what a 50-point post is doing. So again, the way that it works is that by default, if you do the minimum requirements, if you meet the minimum requirements, then you get a B, you get 40 points. And then if you do additional things like deep engagement, like independent research, then your post grade gets nudged up a bit. If you do less than the minimum requirements, then your grade gets nudged down a bit. If you're writing superficial engagement, if it's rushed, if it looks like you wrote 350 words right before the deadline and then just hit submit in like 35 minutes right before the deadline, surprise, I can tell when you've done that, and it'll make you lose points in your post. Even if you got to the minimum word count, right? Even if you got 450 words, but it's 450 words that just you spit out off the top of your head right before the deadline, that's not going to reflect well, and your grade might be below 40 points. If you're just stating your opinion, I want to hear your opinions, but if you're just stating an opinion, that only goes so far. What I really want you to do is think critically about your opinion. Is your opinion right? How would you tell if it's right? Why might people disagree with it? Right? Think critically. Consider other people's perspectives. Right? Don't just think about your own perspective. Consider other people's perspectives. I also grade down if you're not citing your sources properly, if you're using weak sources, if all your sources are coming from social media. This is maybe not the best thing. And the number one biggest way that people lose points on their assignments is by turning them in late. So late posts will get a discount on their grades, and I'll go over that in a second. I shouldn't need to say this, but I'm going to say it for good measure anyway. We're going to be discussing sometimes controversial topics, and we're going to be talking about people's values. We're going to talk about what people believe about some sensitive, politically sensitive topics. Whistleblowing is sensitive, and it's people have strong, sometimes very strong opinions about it on both sides, and this can sometimes get heated in the classroom. You can get heated in the discussion forums, but not just whistleblowing, but things like gender inequality and discrimination, racism, institutional racism. We're going to be talking about these things also. We'll be talking about things like income inequality, and capitalism, and problems with capitalism, ethical problems with capitalism. Sometimes students get upset at these things. Sometimes students get offended at these discussions. It's very important to me that you recognize that your grade doesn't depend on whether you agree with me. It doesn't depend on whether you hold my view or not. I'm not grading on on the content of your views. I'm not grading on how much I agree with you, or how much I like your view, or how much I like you as a person. And I want the class to be the kind of class where people feel comfortable disagreeing with each other, and where those disagreements don't devolve into harassment or bullying, name-calling, insults, or any kind of inappropriate or abusive behavior. Sometimes this is difficult, especially when we're talking explicitly about controversial subjects where people disagree, sometimes very passionately. We're going to be talking about gun control. We're going to be talking about whether people have the right to smoke. Sometimes these conversations get people's emotions riled up, and sometimes conversations get heated. So it's very important for everyone that we engage these conversations responsibly and constructively. Right? We're all friends here. We all want to support each other thinking through these issues. And again, nothing is on the line. At most, your grade in this class is on the line, which in the larger scheme of things isn't all that much. So be sensitive to other people. Understand that people have different perspectives than you. Look for points of agreement. Talk constructively about points of disagreement. Try to make it so that we all learn, and we're all better people from these experiences. Okay, so that's the grading policy, and that's the grading style. I also have here just a grading rubric that tells you sort of in some more detail about how I grade. I should clarify that I don't give a lot of feedback on grades. Basically, your only feedback is the grade you get, and that should tell you roughly what I'm thinking about your performance. Sometimes students find this frustrating, so I have these grading rubrics so that you know basically what I'm thinking. So if you get a rating on your post that's between 45 and 50, I consider this an A grade, right? So I consider it an excellent post. And these are the criteria for excellence, right? That it has over 500 words or over 5 minutes of video essay. Just having that word count isn't enough. You have to have that word count and actually do something with it. But this is one of the minimum requirements for getting an A. That you actually engage with the full lesson, that you're not just focused on one source, but you're looking at multiple sources and tying them into the lesson themes. Right? If you earn an A, if you're earning between 45 and 50 points, I'm seeing that you're drawing explicit connections between sources, that you're citing the sources appropriately, you're drawing these explicit connections between sources and between different lessons, that you're offering your own insight, your own personal experiences, your own views and perspectives. And by the way, if you have job experience that's relevant to our discussions, and you feel comfortable sharing it, please do. Students with job experience, especially if you've had experience with something like whistleblowing, that kind of experience, it's always very interesting, it's always very informative. So share only what you're comfortable sharing, but those kinds of things really improve the engagement in your posts. Anything that shows that you've gone beyond the minimum requirements, independent research, discussing secondary sources and that kind of stuff. That you've adequately cited all this stuff. And again, the word count or the minute count is not all that is required to achieve an A. That's the minimum requirement, right? You also have to do all this other stuff. So if you earned a grade in the 45 to 50 point range, that says, what I'm telling you is that I'm seeing these things in your post. This is the kind of feedback that you'd be getting. If you're earning a B, which is somewhere between 35 and 44 points, 45 points, then you're not at that excellent performance level, but you are meeting the minimum requirements. Right? The minimum requirements is about 400 words, so 350 words or so is in this 35 to 44 point range. If you're engaging with one or two sources, right? Typically, a student who's getting less than 45 points is really just going deep into one source. Right? They found their one reading. They're talking about their one reading. They say a couple things about it. Right? That's fine. That's great. That's going to earn a B. That's the minimum requirements that you're expected to do is find a source and talk about it for a little bit. So if you've done that, that's fine. The pushing you over into the excellent range is really diving deeper, not just in that source, but into the whole lesson theme, tying those sources together, showing that you've grasped not just the source, but the whole theme, that you really understand what's going on. And I'll say again, if you earn 40 points on the lesson, 40 points is a good score. 40 out of 50 is 80%. That's a B. If you keep earning 40 out of 50, you're on track for a B in the class. That's a good grade. Earning a B in the class, that's nothing to be ashamed of. But if you want an A, and I know a lot of students do want an A, then you have to go beyond these minimum requirements. Those minimum requirements are, if you're engaging sincerely those sources, that meets the minimum requirements and that earns that B. A C grade is someone who's not sincerely engaging the sources. The engagement is superficial. They're not really saying anything very deep or insightful. They appeal to cliche, and students do this quite a lot in this class. They'll start off with a cliche, and then they'll spend their time talking about the cliche. Lightning never strikes twice, or whatever, and then they'll. That cliche, it's probably false, and organizing your thinking around these little trite bits of wisdom isn't very interesting. It's the sort of easy path. It's the path of least effort, and that's why it's going to earn a C grade. Another path of least effort is appealing to movies and popular media. Almost every semester when we do the trolley problem, someone refers to a superhero movie like Spider-Man or Batman, I forget which one, but where he's holding on to, I think it's a Spider-Man movie where he's holding on to two trolley cars, and one of them has his girlfriend and the other has a bunch of innocent people, and who do you save, this kind of stuff. So these kinds of things appear in movies all the time, and college students watch a lot of movies, and an easy way of doing your assignment is to just talk about a movie. Okay, yeah, that's an easy way of doing it. You'll get some points for doing that, but because it's the easy way, you're not going to get a lot of points. And in fact, I might grade you down a little bit for only talking about a movie. That doesn't mean you can't refer to a movie, but try to work that movie into the deeper course themes, right, the deeper lessons. If you're just doing it to fill space because it's easy to talk about the movie, I can tell, and that's going to get graded down. Right? Rushing to meet the deadline. Failing to cite your sources properly, or using poor sources, using discredited sources. This happens a lot. We talk about climate change in class. A lot of students, not a lot of students, but every semester, one or two students will come out as climate change deniers and will appeal to a lot of just garbage websites with a bunch of bad facts. That kind of stuff isn't good, and it might get graded down a little bit. It's poor research, it's poor scholarship, and that brings down the quality of the discussion. I said a lot of things critical about the grading here, and I do grade a little bit harshly, because the material is so easy. But I will say that the most common way that people have for losing points in this class is turning in material late. Late posts don't receive more than 35 points. Late replies don't receive more than 10 points out of 15. And there are no late quizzes, so if you are late on a quiz, you don't get any points for that quiz. These late point deductions are the primary reason why people get B's and C's in this class. So if you can stay on top of the schedule, you will have a good shot at that A. I also have the grade for typical F. F is less than half the grade, so less than 25 points. Students who may post less than 25 words, where it's almost completely obscure what you're talking about. Those are F. I usually don't give a lot of Fs on posts. Usually if you're that far behind, you just don't do the post. So I do give a lot of C's, and usually the C's are the late posts or the rushed at the very last minute posts. Not so many F's. So the late policy, I've said a little bit about this, but let me just make it explicit. There are no late quizzes accepted. Quizzes are due Friday at midnight. After Friday, you don't get any quiz. You don't get any quiz grades. Late, but you can turn in your discussion forum posts and replies late for 1 week. So there's a 1 week late policy. There's a penalty during that week. So posts that are normally 50 points are worth only 35 points for 1 week after the deadline. And replies that are usually worth 15 points are worth 10 points for 1 week after the deadline. After that 1 week grace period has passed, no late posts or replies will be accepted. So there's the due date. You have 1 week after the due date to get in that late material, and if you don't do it in the week afterwards, you don't get the credit. The point here is a couple of reasons. One is, again, the material's pretty easy. You just have to do it. So if you're not doing the material, you're not going to get the points from the material. And I'm not going to let you wait until finals week to do a whole bunch of posts and earn the same credit. If you don't get those posts in within a week of the deadline, right, when people are still doing replies and so on, then you don't get the credit. So there's exceptions to this. Things come up. I understand that sometimes it's hard to keep the schedule. One kind of exception is for a planned event. Sometimes students go to professional conferences. Sometimes they have like weddings or other sort of ceremonies to attend that they're required to be away for. Religious events or religious holidays that aren't official NJIT holidays count as planned events like this. Planned events are things that you know are coming, and because you know they're coming in advance, in order to get an extension for a planned event, you have to ask me for that extension 48 hours before the deadline to that event. So your posts are due on Friday. That means you have to have asked me for an extension by Wednesday if you want an extension for that post. If it's Thursday or if it's Friday at 5 p.m., you're not going to get an extension. I don't even for something like a conference, you need to tell me ahead of time, 48 hours ahead of time. If you arrange with me 48 hours ahead of time, then I can give you an extension and you can turn in your post afterwards. I can unlock the quiz for you to take the quiz later, but that's only for someone who makes an arrangement ahead of time, or in the case of a legitimate emergency. So legitimate emergencies are things like medical emergencies. You had to be rushed to the emergency room, or you were in a car accident or something, or your grandparents died and you have to go to a funeral. These kinds of things also happen. It's understandable. It's understandable that you won't be able to complete your work on time. But these are the kinds of things that I'm asking for an excuse from the Dean of Students. So the Dean of Students is supposed to make sure that students are all okay. And in case of these emergencies, it's usually not going to just affect my class, the class you have with me. It's usually going to affect all your classes. So if there's some emergency, like you were rushed to the emergency room, I'm asking that you tell the Dean of Students and that you give them documented evidence, your doctor note or or whatever, so that we can verify that your story is accurate, and then we can coordinate with all your other instructors to make sure that your needs are being taken care of. Right? In these kinds of emergency situations, you can come to me after a deadline. If you have an excuse, you can come to me after a deadline and say, hey, this thing happened, I was in the hospital for the last 2 weeks. In that case, I'm going to ask you to go to the Dean of Students and to get them to verify your excuse. I'm not going to verify it, so don't show me any of your documents. Show the Dean of Students your documents. They will verify your excuse, and then the Dean of Students will send me an email telling me that you have a verified excuse. And then once I hear from the Dean of Students, then I will take away any late penalties, and I'll open quizzes for you and so on. So these are options for you if there's some emergency. But apart from these emergencies or apart from planned events, I'm requiring that you keep to the schedule. The schedule, again, is the biggest reason why people lose points in this course. So it's important that we're all working on the material at the same time. So please try to stay to schedule. The rest of these slideshows are boring, but I'm going to go through it anyway. Again, this information is all in the syllabus. Citations. So I want you to cite sources. The purpose of citing sources is so that your readers can track down your sources and review them for themselves. Right? If you're saying something, if you're quoting some person or you're citing some fact, give your source so we know that where you got that fact or where we got that quote, and we can look at it for ourselves. Right? We might be able to see it in context and understand it better. Right? So this is the goal, and the citation policy is designed to facilitate this goal. It's designed to make it easy for your readers to track down your sources. So first of all, any work that's not your own must have clear citations. Otherwise, it's plagiarism, and I'll talk about plagiarism on the next slide. If you're talking about material that I've made available on Moodle as part of the lesson readings, as part of one of the optional readings or the required readings, right? If it's part of Moodle and I've made that material available myself, then you can cite it by just referring to the author and maybe the page number if necessary. So I give an example here, right? So say in your post you're talking about Turing's view, and you say that Turing said the question, can machines think, was too meaningless to deserve discussion. I put his statement in quotes, and then I put a little parentheses, Turing, page 4. And that's all the citation I need. I don't need anything else beyond that. It's very clear what I'm referring to because this is material that was made available in the syllabus. If you're using any material other than what was made available on Moodle for the lesson reading, then that needs to be cited. The easiest thing to do, and if it's just something, if it's just like a fact, then you're just putting it in your post, and you want to provide the source for that fact, put a little footnote, and then at the bottom of your post, put a hyperlink. The hyperlink not only gives me the source, but it also tells me what the source is. It shows me where you're getting that information from. And if you can make it a hyperlink so I can actually click on the link and go to that source, that would make it the easiest for your readers. If you have a source that's linked like that, that's all I really need to check out your sources. But if you have a source that's not linked online anywhere, if, for instance, you're doing library research and you used a book, then or you found a journal article that's not available online, those sources should be given full citations. I'd like APA-style citation. APA-style citation has the following kind of format, and this is really what I need to be able to track down your sources. The author, usually last name then first initial, and then the year in parentheses, and then the title of the work. If it's a book, then it's in italics, and if it's a journal article, then it's in quotations. And then the source, where was that thing published, right? If it's a book, who was the publisher, the city it was published in. If it was a journal article, then what journal was it published in, and then what journal number and the details for the journal. If it's some other source, then give the other source. You should be able to do an APA citation for any source that you use, whether it's online or in a book or anywhere else. And I will require that you do full APA-style citations for your scholarly sources in your research project in weeks 10 and 11. So that will be a requirement. You have an annotated bibliography, and it's required that you do full APA-style citations. But apart from the research project, I don't need full citations unless it's material that's not easily available online. If it's a book that you have like on your shelf, then give me the full AP citation. But anything else, just give me a hyperlink. If it's material in the Moodle lesson, then just give me the name of the author and page number. Failure to do this kind of thing counts as plagiarism. The New Jersey Student Code of Conduct, which you can read by clicking on that link, defines plagiarism as attempting to use work that was authored or prepared by another and submitting it as one's own work without appropriate citation or credit. Intentionally knowing and representing the words or ideas of another's as one's own in any academic exercise. And this includes, in the third bullet point here, copying from a source and altering words or phrases to avoid exact quotation. So most plagiarism that I encounter in this class is of this kind, where you're not doing a full direct quote, but that you're sort of adjusting the words slightly, maybe using a thesaurus to change out some words, or rearranging the word order a little bit, something like that. Those little bits of rearrangement are the clearest evidence that you can provide that you were plagiarizing. In the ideal circumstance, you should never be rearranging other people's words. What you should be doing is thinking about the material, what they're saying, and then saying it in your own words. Writing the idea from your brain and not from rearranging someone else's idea. So I find plagiarism every semester. I will do extensive plagiarism on the research report in weeks 10 and 11, but I will also be looking for plagiarism throughout the semester. If I find an instance of plagiarism, you will receive 0 credit for that assignment. And I'll send you a note explaining why you receive 0 credit for that assignment. If your case of plagiarism is especially egregious, if you're just copying entire paragraphs from Wikipedia, for instance, or if you've done it multiple times, this will get referred to the Dean of Students with a recommendation that you fail the class. Plagiarism is serious, and I'm not going to tolerate it, especially in an ethics class. Don't cheat in an ethics class. I'm not going to have any sympathy for you if you cheat in an ethics class. All right, we're almost done. I guess I'm going to end on a slightly happier note than that, about attendance and extra credit. So 1,600 points from the required lessons this semester, but the grade tends towards a B, and I grade pretty harshly, so this might drag your grade down. But you can make up for, sometimes you miss a lesson or you turn in something late or whatever. I understand these things happen. You can make up for missed points with extra credit. So there's 2 different kinds of extra credit in the class. One is attendance credit. Attendance credit is extra credit, which means it's not required. You don't have to earn the attendance credit. You can if you want to. And attendance credit is 5 points per lesson. In the lesson you'll see the discussion forum, you'll see the reading quiz, and then you'll see the attendance quiz. And that attendance quiz is due on Friday at midnight along with the post and the quiz. And the attendance quiz will have 2 parts. It'll have 2 questions. One question will ask you what the lecture secret word is, and one question will ask you what the discussion secret word is. So these are secret words that I give out in different places. The lecture secret word is given in the weekly video lectures that I post on Moodle. So I'll have a YouTube video. At some point in that video, I will say the secret lecture word, and I will have that same word in the slideshow. So if you can find that secret word in the lecture video or in the slideshow, and put it into the attendance quiz, you get those 2 points for the lecture credit. The discussion word is given during scheduled class times. So if you're in a section of this class that meets at a regular time on campus, then I will give out that word at the start of class. And that word will only be good during that class period. So you have to come to class, you have to attend class to hear that word to get the discussion attendance credit for that week. Again, it's extra credit, and so it's optional, so you don't have to go to class at all if you don't want to. But if you want that extra credit attendance, if you want to discuss things with your peers, then show up for that discussion secret word. Now, online students, there's several online-only sections of this class. Online-only sections don't have scheduled meeting times, and so there's not going to be a discussion attendance word. However, I will have online hangout sessions. So online hangout sessions will be kind of like office hours for online students. I'll have normal office hours, which are listed on Moodle, but I will also have video hangouts, and these video hangouts are for online-only students to give you an opportunity to come talk to me, chat about the material in the class, ask questions you have about grading or whatever. It's just open office hours. During those office hours, I will also have posted it's in a little video hangout online. During those office hours, I will also have posted a secret word for the discussion section, and that will count as the discussion section for the attendance credit. You can find the schedule for the online video hangouts for online students on the Moodle page. So that's 5 points a week, 15 lessons in the semester. That's 75 possible extra credit attendance points that you can earn. 75 points is almost as much as a discussion forum. So in effect, this extra credit will allow you to make up for one missed discussion forum. So this is the option. Instead of allowing you to drop the lowest lesson, I'm giving you extra credit that can make up for a missed lesson. In addition to this, there's also 2 extra credit essays. So not everyone's going to have the time to put in for the attendance credit, but there's also 2 extra credit essays. One essay is released around midterms, and the other essay is released around finals. You can do them at any point in the semester, but I stagger when they're available. They're posted on Moodle in the discussion forum at the top of the page called Extra Credit Discussions, extra credit essays. One, I want you to talk about the ethics of your field, and the other, I want you to talk about a documentary on copyright that I'll have you watch. And I'll give you details on those assignments when they get closer. There's no credit for late attendance, so if you miss the attendance due date, you just don't get credit for that. If you don't turn in the extra credit essays on time, you don't get those credits either. If you miss those due dates, it's just extra credit, so you're not going to lose any points. You're just missing the opportunity to gain those extra points. And similarly, if you make a mistake in spelling, sometimes the secret words are spelled wrong when you write them into the quiz. If you spell them wrong, that's on you. I'm not going to give you the points for spelling. Part of the point of these attendance credit things, part of the point of the secret words is to make sure that you're paying attention. So spelling things wrong is a sign that you didn't pay attention, and so you're not going to get any lenience from that. All right, I think that's it. I think I've gone over just about everything in this video. I know it's a lot of material. The syllabus is like 20 pages long. I apologize for that. But hopefully you now know everything you need to know to go through this course. You can go through the slideshow that I've just gone through on your own. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the discussion forum. And thanks a lot. I'll see you